A talented black teenager is humiliated when a prestigious rock band rejects him without even hearing him play, mocking his background and dismissing his dreams. But when his raw street performance goes viral overnight, the same band comes crawling back. Now he holds all the power, and they're about to learn the cost of their prejudice. The rehearsal studio smelled like stale beer and burnt ambition. Marcus stood in the doorway, his father's guitar case gripped tight in his right hand, watching four men lounging across torn leather couches like kings surveying peasants. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows that made everything look cheaper than it was. Derek, the lead guitarist, took a long drag from his cigarette and exhaled toward the water-stained ceiling. He didn't look at Marcus. None of them did. The drummer tapped his sticks against his knee in an irregular rhythm that felt intentionally dismissive. "You Marcus?" Derek finally asked, his voice flat and bored. Marcus nodded, stepping forward. "Yeah, thanks for letting me." "How'd you even find us?" the bassist interrupted, leaning forward with narrowed eyes. His dusty rose vintage band shirt was 2 sizes too small, showing off arms covered in faded tattoos. "Your post said you needed a rhythm guitarist," Marcus replied, keeping his voice steady despite the knot forming in his stomach. "I sent recordings. You said to come in." Derek exchanged glances with the keyboardist, a smirk playing at his lips. The room felt smaller suddenly, the air thicker. Marcus's fingers twitched against the leather handle of his guitar case. "Right," Derek said slowly, flicking ash onto the concrete floor. "The recordings." The drummer laughed, short, sharp, cruel. It bounced off the soundproofed walls and landed like a slap across Marcus's face. He felt his jaw tighten, his shoulders square. This wasn't how auditions were supposed to start. Derek stood, crushing his cigarette under his boot. He walked toward Marcus with deliberate slowness, stopping just close enough to invade personal space. His cobalt blue eyes were cold, calculating. "Here's the thing, kid," Derek said, his voice dropping to something almost gentle, which made it worse. "We're looking for someone who fits our vibe, our aesthetic, you understand." Marcus understood perfectly. His grip on the guitar case tightened until his knuckles went white. "Hey, where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. And if you're enjoying this story, smash that like button and subscribe for part 2. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next." 3 months earlier, Marcus's bedroom was a shrine to possibility. Posters of Jimi Hendrix, Prince, and Slash covered every inch of wall space, legends who proved that fingers on frets spoke a universal language. His father's acoustic guitar hung above his bed like a talisman, its worn body catching morning light through thin curtains. He'd wake at 5:30 every morning to practice before school. The apartment walls were paper-thin, but his mother never complained. She'd leave for her first shift at the diner with coffee brewing and a note on the kitchen counter. "Make it loud enough for your dad to hear." His father had been gone 4 years. Heart attack, sudden and ruthless. But his presence lingered in every chord Marcus learned, every callus he earned on his fingertips. The scholarship to Berklee College of Music was Marcus's ticket out. Full ride, renewable each year, contingent on maintaining musical excellence and community engagement. He'd worked for it, performed at nursing homes, taught free lessons to neighborhood kids, busked on the corner of 5th and Main every Saturday for 2 years straight. That corner became his stage. Tourists would stop, dropping bills into his open guitar case. Regulars knew his schedule and brought friends. Old Mr. Chen from the dumpling shop would stand in his doorway during Marcus's sets, nodding along with his arms crossed and a slight smile creasing his weathered face. Marcus played everything: blues, rock, jazz, classical. He could make his guitar weep or rage or whisper. His fingers moved across the fretboard like water, finding notes that others searched years to discover. His mother worked doubles at the diner and nights at a call center. She never said the money was tight, but Marcus saw the bills stacked on the counter, saw her counting change before grocery runs. The scholarship wasn't just his dream. It was their only realistic path forward. When Derek's band posted an audition call for a rhythm guitarist, Marcus saw it as validation. They were local legends, played at every major venue in the city, had opened for national acts twice. Their lead guitarist was leaving for a touring opportunity. They needed someone good, someone hungry. Marcus spent 3 weeks preparing. He recorded 6 songs showcasing different styles and techniques. He researched their setlist, learned their originals note perfect. He borrowed his friend Jamal's camera to film himself playing, making sure the lighting hit right, the sound quality was clean. The email response came fast. Impressive. Come audition Thursday, 7 p.m., Studio B on Warehouse Row. His mother hugged him so tight he could barely breathe. Mr. Chen gave him free dumplings. Jamal slapped his back and said, "That's my brother right there." Marcus bought new strings with money from his busking case. He polished his father's guitar until it gleamed. He practiced until his fingers ached and then practiced more. Thursday arrived heavy with possibility. Derek circled Marcus like a shark testing prey. The other band members watched with expressions ranging from amusement to pity. Marcus set his guitar case down carefully, refusing to let his hands shake. "You play rock?" Derek asked, though his tone suggested he didn't care about the answer. "Everything," Marcus replied. "Blues, jazz, metal, classical, I sent you samples of." "Right, the samples," Derek waved dismissively. He picked up his vintage Gibson, strumming a power chord that vibrated through the massive amp. The sound filled the space, meant to intimidate. The bassist snorted. "Bet he's more into hip-hop." Marcus's jaw clenched. Music doesn't have genres, just good and bad. "Philosophical," the keyboardist muttered, barely looking up from his phone. "That's cute." Derek's voice took on false friendliness that was somehow worse than hostility. "Look, Marcus, you seem like a nice kid, probably talented in your own way, but we've got a brand, an image. People expect a certain thing when they see us on stage." "I know your set list," Marcus pushed back, fighting desperation. "I learned every song. I can play anything you throw at me." "It's not about technical skill." The drummer spoke for the first time, his voice flat and final. "It's about fit." The word hung in the air like smoke. Marcus felt it settle on his skin and his lungs. He'd heard that word before, different contexts, different situations, always meaning the same thing. "You didn't even let me play," Marcus said quietly. Derek moved toward the door, opening it wide. The hallway beyond looked impossibly bright compared to the dim studio. "We've got another audition in 15 minutes, someone who's more aligned with our vision." "This is about my recordings, right?" Marcus heard himself ask, though he already knew. "You heard me play, you know I'm good." The bassist laughed outright. "Confident, I'll give him that." "It's not confidence if it's true." Marcus bent to pick up his guitar case, moving slowly, refusing to scurry out like a scolded dog. Derek stepped aside, gesturing toward the exit with exaggerated politeness. "Good luck with your music career, kid. Maybe try some different venues, places where you'd be more comfortable." Marcus walked past him, spine straight, head high. Behind him, the door closed. Then laughter, loud, unrestrained, cruel. It bounced off the walls and followed him down the hallway. The stairwell door muffled the sound but didn't erase it. It echoed in his head, following him down 3 flights of stairs and out into the cool evening air. Outside, a couple walked past the building's entrance. They glanced at Marcus emerging with his guitar case, then at each other. They'd heard something. Pity flickered across their faces before they hurried away. Marcus stood on the sidewalk, letting reality sink in. He'd been rejected without playing a single note. His father's guitar case felt heavier than it ever had. Rain started falling as Marcus walked, light at first, then steady. He didn't bother opening his jacket. The cold water felt appropriate, like the world was agreeing with his mood. His phone buzzed. "Jamal, how'd it go?" Marcus silenced it. He couldn't form words yet, couldn't explain what had just happened. The humiliation sat in his chest like a stone, heavy and sharp-edged. He walked past the corner where he usually busked. His regular spot sat empty, the brick wall behind it tagged with fresh graffiti. Across the street, Mr. Chen's dumpling shop glowed warm through the rain. Marcus couldn't face him either. Instead, he found himself at Lincoln Park, sitting on the bench where his father used to bring him every Sunday. This was where he'd learned his first chord, G major, simple and clean. His father's patient hands had positioned his small fingers, adjusting pressure and angle until the sound rang true. "Music is truth," his father had said, voice warm as summer. "It can't lie. When you play from the heart, people hear it, they feel it. That's all that matters." Marcus set the guitar case beside him on the wet bench. Rain drummed against the leather, creating rhythm without meaning. His hands were shaking now that no one was watching, trembling with rage and shame, and something darker he didn't want to name. The scholarship committee wanted community engagement and professional conduct. What would they say if they knew he'd been turned away like trash? Would they question his judgment, his character? His mother's face appeared in his mind, the way she looked when she came home from double shifts, exhausted but smiling when she asked about his practice. The way she'd hugged him when the scholarship acceptance arrived, crying into his shoulder and whispering prayers of gratitude. He'd failed her, not because he wasn't good enough, but because he'd believed skill mattered more than everything else. The rain fell harder. Marcus sat motionless, watching water pool around his feet. His father's guitar waited in its case, silent and patient, holding answers he couldn't hear yet. Marcus's father had been 23 when he first picked up a saxophone. Late for a musician, most said. But Raymond Davis had a gift, an ability to hear music in everything, to translate the world into sound. He'd played jazz clubs across the city for 15 years. Small venues mostly, places where smoke hung thick and audiences actually listened. He never made it big, never cut an album, never toured beyond a 2-state radius. But people who heard him play never forgot it. Raymond had faced his own closed doors. Marcus remembered sitting in the back of a club when he was 8, watching his father talk to a booking agent. The conversation had been short, the agent's body language dismissive. His father had walked away with shoulders slightly slumped, then straightened them before reaching Marcus. "Sometimes the door's locked," Raymond had said, ruffling Marcus's hair. "So you climb through the window or build your own door. Music always finds a way." 3 years later, Raymond had a heart attack while playing a Saturday night set. He'd finished his solo first. That was what the bassist told Marcus afterward. Played the last note perfect, then collapsed. Gone before the ambulance arrived. The funeral was standing room only. Musicians came from everywhere, sharing stories Marcus had never heard. His father had mentored dozens of young players, loaned equipment to those who couldn't afford it, played benefit concerts for causes that mattered. The worn guitar had been in his father's closet, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like his cologne. His mother had given it to Marcus a month after the funeral, her hands trembling as she placed it in his lap. "He wanted you to have this," she'd said. "Said when you were ready, you know what to do with it." Marcus had learned to play on that guitar. Every chord, every scale, every song was filtered through wood and strings his father had once touched. It became his connection to a man he missed every single day. The Berkeley scholarship had felt like vindication, proof that his father's lessons hadn't been wasted. The money would change everything for his mother. She could quit one of her jobs, sleep more than 4 hours a night, stop choosing between electricity and groceries. But the scholarship required more than talent. It required performance opportunities, community respect, evidence of professional growth. Getting rejected from auditions, especially public ones, could raise questions, make the committee doubt his viability as an artist. Marcus couldn't afford doubt. His mother couldn't afford it either. He thought about his father's words. Music always finds a way. But Raymond Davis had died at 41, undiscovered and undervalued, his genius appreciated by hundreds instead of millions. Was that enough? Was it supposed to be? Marcus didn't go home. Instead, he found himself in the public library's computer section, searching for Derek's band. He needed to understand what had just happened, needed to see if the rejection was personal or part of something bigger. Their website was slick, professional photos, tour dates, links to streaming platforms. The About section talked about authentic rock and roll and staying true to the roots. Marcus scrolled through band photos spanning 3 years, 5 different lineups, not a single person of color. He dug deeper. Forums, local music blogs, archived interviews. In a Reddit thread from 8 months ago, he found something that made his stomach tighten. A commenter named Lakees Davis had written, "Just got rejected by Crimson Tide. Didn't even audition me, said I wasn't the right fit for their image. I'm a classically trained keyboardist, but whatever, their loss." Another user replied, "Same thing happened to my boy last year. He's Filipino, plays drums like a machine. They took one look and said they'd already found someone." Marcus kept scrolling. More stories emerged, musicians of color rejected without fair audition, always with the same vague language about fit and image and vision. Then he found the music industry blog post that changed everything. The article was titled "Local Venue Demands Diversity or Drop, Capitol Records' New Booking Policy." Published 3 weeks ago, Marcus read with increasing focus. Capitol Records, the venue that booked Derek's band for their biggest shows, had implemented new requirements. Bands had to demonstrate commitment to diversity or lose their slots. The policy came after public pressure, after too many lineups that looked identical month after month. Derek's band had a showcase scheduled in 6 weeks. Their potential record deal hinged on that performance, and Capitol Records was watching who they chose to fill their vacant guitarist position. They needed diversity, they just didn't want to actually embrace it. Marcus leaned back in the library chair, his heartbeat loud in his ears. The rejection wasn't about his talent. It was about their calculation. They'd rather risk losing the showcase than change who they were. His phone buzzed again. His mother this time. "How did it go, baby? Call me when you can." Marcus stared at the message. He could tell her the truth, let her comfort him, except that some doors stayed closed. Or he could find another way through, not for Derek's band but for himself. His father's voice echoed in his memory, "Build your own door." Marcus closed the browser and stood. The rain had stopped outside. The evening air smelled clean, washed fresh. He picked up his guitar case and headed toward 5th and Main, toward his corner, toward the only stage that had never rejected him. Saturday morning arrived cold and bright. Marcus set up his amp on his usual corner earlier than normal, when the sidewalk was still empty and the coffee shop across the street was just unlocking its doors. He didn't play his usual repertoire. Instead, he started with an original, something raw and unpolished he'd written at 3 in the morning. His anger and humiliation transformed into chord progressions and lyrics that tasted like truth. The song was about closed doors and false promises, about being good enough in private but wrong in public, about carrying someone else's dreams on your back while they shut you out. His fingers moved across the fretboard with fierce precision. The melody was bluesy, aggressive, built on minor chords that ached. His voice, which he rarely used while busking, carried across the street, rough with emotion he didn't try to hide. People stopped, more than usual. A woman in a lavender business suit paused mid-stride, coffee cup halfway to her lips. 2 college students sat on the curb, filming on their phones. Mr. Chen emerged from his shop, wiping his hands on his apron, his expression unreadable. Marcus closed his eyes and played like his father was listening, like the scholarship committee could hear, like Derek and his band were standing in the crowd, forced to witness what they'd rejected. The song built to a crescendo, his father's guitar screaming through the small amp, feedback and fury blending into something almost beautiful. Then silence. He let the final note fade into the morning air, held the stillness for 3 long breaths. When he opened his eyes, nearly 30 people had gathered. They stood in a semicircle, some with phones out, others just watching with faces that reflected his own pain back at him. Then they applauded, not polite golf claps but genuine appreciation. The woman in lavender dropped a 20 in his case. The college students moved closer, asking if he was on Spotify. Mr. Chen nodded slowly, his eyes shining. Marcus played 3 more originals, each one sharper than the last. The crowd grew. A street performer who usually worked 2 blocks over stopped to listen. A taxi driver pulled to the curb illegally, leaning out his window to hear better. For 2 hours, Marcus owned that corner. Money filled his guitar case, more than he'd ever made busking. People asked for his name, his socials, where they could hear more. When he finally packed up, exhausted and strangely lighter, he checked his phone. 7 texts from Jamal, 3 missed calls from his mother, and 1 notification from Instagram that made his breath catch. Someone had tagged him in a video. It already had 50,000 views. Marcus watched the video with shaking hands, standing on the corner where he'd just performed. The college students had posted it, raw footage of his first song, The Angry One. Caption: "This kid just destroyed us emotionally on a random street corner. Someone sign him, now." 50,000 views became 70,000 while he watched, then 100. His phone rang, unknown number. "Is this Marcus Davis?" A woman's voice, professional and energetic. "My name is Angela from Zenith Records. I just saw your video. Are you represented?" Marcus's mouth went dry. "I know." "Perfect, we should talk. Are you available this week?" 3 more calls came within an hour. 2 producers, 1 booking agent. His Instagram followers jumped from 300 to 5,000. By evening, the video hit 2 million views. It spread beyond music circles, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. Comments poured in about his story, his voice, his raw emotion. Someone found his backstory, posted about his father, the scholarship, his dreams. Marcus became a symbol overnight, the kid who played truth on a street corner. His mother cried when he told her. Jamal screamed through the phone. Mr. Chen gave him free dumplings and hugged him tight. But at midnight, Marcus's phone buzzed with an email that turned his stomach to ice. Subject line: Scholarship Committee urgent review required. It has come to our attention that you are featured in viral content currently circulating on social media. Per scholarship guidelines, all public performances and media appearances must be pre-approved by the committee. A review hearing has been scheduled for Monday at 9 a.m. Your presence is mandatory. Failure to attend will result in immediate scholarship suspension. Marcus read it 3 times. The words didn't change. His phone buzzed again. Text from unknown number. Saw your video. Guess you found your fit after all. We'd love to talk about that guitarist position if you're interested. Derek. Marcus sat on his bed, surrounded by success that suddenly felt like quicksand. 2 million people loved him. The scholarship committee questioned him, and the band that rejected him now wanted him back. His father's guitar leaned against the wall, silent in the darkness. Everything was falling apart and coming together at the exact same time. Marcus sat outside the scholarship committee building at 8:45 Monday morning. The brick facade loomed above him, windows reflecting gray sky. His father's guitar case rested against his legs, familiar weight that usually brought comfort. Today it felt like evidence. The viral video had hit 5 million views. His phone buzzed constantly with opportunities, record labels, interview requests, collaboration offers. But none of it mattered if the scholarship disappeared. Inside, 3 committee members would decide his future: Dr. Patricia Webb, the director, Professor Chen from the music department, and Dean Morrison, who'd written his recommendation letter 6 months ago. The email had been clear. Unauthorized public performance constituted breach of conduct guidelines. Students were ambassadors. Every action reflected on the institution. Marcus had broken rules he didn't know existed. His mother had wanted to come. He'd refused. She'd already taken too much time off work, already sacrificed too much. This was his mess to clean up. At 8:55, the door opened. A student assistant, white girl with kind eyes, gestured him inside. "They're ready for you." The conference room smelled like coffee and leather. The committee sat behind a long table, their faces professionally neutral. Marcus took the chair across from them, setting his guitar case beside him. Dr. Webb spoke first. "Thank you for coming, Marcus. We've reviewed your case and the viral content in question." Marcus's throat tightened. He nodded. Professor Chen leaned forward, his expression thoughtful. He was Mr. Chen's nephew. Marcus had learned that during orientation. "The video shows you performing original material on a public corner. Is that accurate?" "Yes, sir," Marcus replied, keeping his voice steady. "How long have you been busking at that location?" Dean Morrison asked. 2 years before the scholarship. I never stopped." Dr. Webb made a note. "The guidelines require pre-approval for performances that could generate media attention. You understand why this concerns us." Marcus understood perfectly. They thought he'd used the scholarship for clout, turned their investment into personal gain. "I was playing the same corner I've always played. I didn't plan for the video, didn't ask anyone to film." "But you were upset," Professor Chen said quietly. "The song was angry. Why?" Marcus hesitated. This was the moment. He could lie, protect himself, say it was just creative expression. Or he could tell the truth and risk everything. His father's voice echoed, "Music is truth." "I auditioned for a local band Thursday night," Marcus began. "They rejected me without letting me play, said I didn't fit their image." He paused, choosing words carefully. "It hurt, so Saturday morning I played what I felt." The committee exchanged glances. Dr. Webb's expression shifted slightly. "This band, did they give a reason for the rejection?" "They said I wasn't aligned with their vision." Marcus met her eyes. "But I researched them afterward, found other musicians of color who'd been rejected the same way. Same language, same excuses." Professor Chen sat back, his face troubled. "You felt discriminated against." "I felt dismissed," Marcus said simply. "I let that fuel my music instead of silencing it. That's what my father taught me. Play truth, not comfort." Silence filled the room. Dr. Webb wrote something. Dean Morrison studied Marcus with new intensity. The video, Dr. Webb said slowly, shows exactly the kind of artistic courage we value. Raw, honest, technically excellent. She paused. But it also generated massive public attention without institutional oversight. That's our concern. Marcus nodded. He understood. They needed control, accountability, protection from liability. The scholarship came with strings he'd accidentally cut. I didn't mean to cause problems, he said quietly. I just played music, like I always have. Dr. Webb opened a folder. We received communication this morning that complicates matters, from Derek Castellano, lead guitarist of Crimson Tide. Marcus's stomach dropped. He claims you violated a non-disclosure agreement signed before your audition, says you defamed his band publicly and leveraged false racism accusations for viral attention. Dr. Webb looked up. Did you sign an NDA? No, Marcus's voice was firm. There was no NDA. I walked into a studio, got rejected without playing and left. That's all. Dean Morrison frowned. He's provided what appears to be a signed document with your name. It's not real, Marcus said, heat rising in his chest. I never signed anything. Professor Chen pulled out his phone, scrolling quickly. The video has generated significant discussion online. Multiple musicians have come forward with similar stories about this band. The pattern is documented. Dr. Webb's expression hardened. Mr. Castellano is threatening legal action if we don't suspend your scholarship and issue a public statement condemning your conduct. Marcus felt the room tilt. This was it, Derek's final play. Destroy him completely, erase the threat he represented. He's lying about the NDA. I can prove I never signed it. How? Dr. Webb asked. Handwriting analysis, security footage from the building. I was there less than 10 minutes, not enough time to read and sign legal documents. Marcus leaned forward, and he emailed me Saturday night, after the video went viral, wanted me to audition again. Why would he do that if I'd violated an NDA and defamed him? Professor Chen's eyebrows rose. You have that email. Marcus pulled out his phone, found the message, handed it across the table. The committee passed it around, reading carefully. Derek's text was damning. Saw your video. Guess you found your fit after all. We'd love to talk about that guitarist position if you're interested. Dr. Webb set the phone down slowly. This was sent after your performance went viral. Midnight Saturday, 12 hours after the video was posted. Silence again, but different this time. Electric, charged with realization. Dean Morrison spoke carefully. It appears Mr. Castellano's narrative has inconsistencies. It's not just inconsistent, Professor Chen said, his voice tight with controlled anger. It's calculated intimidation. He's trying to silence a student who exposed his discriminatory practices. Dr. Webb stood, walking to the window. Her shoulders were rigid. When she turned back, her face held something Marcus hadn't seen before, protective fury. Marcus, she said quietly, we owe you an apology. We should have investigated before scheduling this hearing. Should have recognized this for what it was, retaliation. Marcus's breath caught. You believe me? The evidence is clear. The timeline doesn't support his claims. And frankly, the pattern Professor Chen found online corroborates your experience. Dr. Webb returned to her seat. This institution does not tolerate discrimination, nor do we allow external parties to intimidate our students. Professor Chen nodded. The scholarship remains intact. No violations occurred. You performed on your established busking corner as you've done for years. That the performance went viral doesn't change its nature. Relief flooded through Marcus so intensely his hands shook. Thank you. Don't thank us yet, Dr. Webb said. We're going to issue a statement supporting you and condemning attempts to silence musicians who speak truth about discrimination. And we're going to make sure Mr. Castellano understands that legal threats against our students will be met with our full institutional resources. Dean Morrison smiled slightly. You've given us an opportunity to stand for something important, Marcus. We should be thanking you. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood backstage at Capitol Records venue. The same venue where Derek's band had their showcase scheduled. The same venue that had implemented diversity requirements. Except now, Marcus was headlining. Zenith Records had moved fast, signed him, produced 3 singles, arranged this debut performance. His story had resonated beyond music circles. Major outlets covered it. Artists spoke out about their own experiences with discrimination in the industry. Derek's band had been dropped from the showcase. Capitol Records released a statement about maintaining inclusive standards. Other venues followed suit. Marcus didn't feel victorious. He felt quiet, centered, aware of his father's presence in ways that transcended memory. His mother sat front row, wearing her best lavender dress. Mr. Chen had closed his shop early to attend. Jamal stood in the wings with a grin that could light cities. The scholarship committee had invited Marcus to speak at their annual gala. They wanted him to share his story, inspire other students. Dr. Webb had personally apologized 3 more times. Marcus adjusted his father's guitar strap, feeling the worn leather settle familiar against his shoulder. The stage manager gave him the 2-minute warning. He closed his eyes, breathing deep. When he opened them, Angela from Zenith Records was standing beside him. "Nervous?" she asked. "Ready," Marcus replied. The lights dimmed. The crowd's noise faded to expectant silence. Marcus walked onto the stage, guitar in hand, his shadow stretching long across the polished floor. He didn't play the viral song. Instead, he played something new, a piece about doors that opened when others closed, about truth that couldn't be silenced, about fathers whose lessons lived forever in their children's hands. The first note rang clear and perfect through the venue. His mother's face glowed with tears and pride. Mr. Chen nodded his familiar approval. Marcus played like his father was listening, and somewhere, somehow, he was. 3 months later, Marcus sat on his usual corner at 5th and Main. The busking case was open at his feet, though he didn't need the money anymore. He came back every Saturday morning because this was where truth had found him. People still stopped to listen. Some recognized him now, took photos, asked for autographs. Others were tourists who'd never heard his name. Both groups got the same thing: honest music played with full heart. Derek's band had disbanded. Their remaining shows were canceled after venues refused to book them. The bassist issued an apology on social media. Derek stayed silent. Marcus bore no ill will. Anger was exhausting, and he'd learned something more powerful, that rejection often redirected you towards something better. His father had faced closed doors and taught him to build new ones. Marcus had inherited that lesson and passed it forward. He now mentored young musicians, especially those who felt dismissed or overlooked, taught them that their voices mattered, that truth always found audience. The scholarship had become a launching pad rather than a destination. Berkeley wanted him to speak at orientation, share his story with incoming students. He'd agreed, knowing his father would be proud. As the morning sun warmed the sidewalk and his fingers moved across familiar frets, Marcus understood what his father had really meant all those years ago. Music didn't always find a way. Sometimes music was the way, through pain, past prejudice, toward truth that couldn't be denied. His guitar rang out across the corner, the same notes his father once played, transformed by Marcus's hands into something both inherited and entirely his own. The audience grew, the music continued, and somewhere beyond the crowd, beyond the city, beyond everything that tried to silence it, truth kept singing.